What's up, everyone? Welcome to episode 80 of the RUDIS Wrestling Podcast. Matt, we are back, not in studio. We're back at our home offices. How you doing this Monday morning?
Good. Obviously, it was a great weekend. Great weekend having you down here for the RUDIS Summit. I think every year when we do this, it's just an amazing experience to bring everybody in that's associated with the brand, and especially this year, bringing all our athletes in and bringing them up to speed about what our culture, what our brand is about. It was a pretty powerful weekend.
Yeah, I agree. I thought it was a lot of fun. It was nice. Some of the athletes I had not really met or got to converse with yet, so that was good. And then obviously Jesse always brings the energy, so that's he gets up there and he speaks and he lights the room on fire.
Oh, he was bringing the heat, especially when it came to you.
Oh, we won't bring that up.
No.
That's funny. Yeah. So all around good weekend. So Matt, not even had 2 days to decompress. And we were in a meeting. We hopped out of a meeting. We hopped onto the podcast. We talked about Yianni and Zain, and we talked about Dake. We obviously talked about Dake Dieringer because it was going on. We did it live. So now 2 days later, you kind of had time to decompress. What are your thoughts on those two subjects?
Well, number one, going back to the matches from Saturday, it's funny. Like, I don't know why people are surprised. Like, I don't know how many times, and I think I said this, on Saturday, like, how many times are people actually going to bet against Dake or say he's going down? Like, he's probably been for a guy with 4 NCAA titles and a world title, he's probably been the most doubted or bet against competitor that I can recall. And
yeah, I know. I agree with you 100%. I, myself included, bet against him. I probably against my own good judgment. Alex Dieringer looked great, and in those last 4 matches, I mean, we did the technique breakdown on him. Alex Dieringer had gotten closer in every single match, and then all of a sudden, I feel like Dieringer took 2 steps back. I felt like he didn't sniff Dake. It wasn't close. It wasn't competitive. He had nothing for him.
Now, do you think it's more so he took 2 steps back, or should we be giving Dake a little bit more credit because he came with a completely different game plan, and that was the thing. Like, it looked like Dieringer was prepared for the Kyle Dake he'd seen 4 previous occasions, and Dake was like, "Okay, this guy's been closing the gap on what I've been throwing at him. I'm going to completely change it up." So I thought it was more so a testament to Dake's adjustments and his ability to adjust and adapt.
Well, so I would say I would totally agree with everything you said, and I would just say that's what made him take a step back. I mean, you think Dieringer's closing this ground to the point where the last one was 5-5, Matt, and it got decided in a crazy scramble. I mean, it was a very competitive match, and Dake changes his style and just kind of schools him. So now if you're Dieringer going into this match, you were feeling very confident. You'd gotten closer every single match. You'd had great results outside of Kyle Dake. And now all of a sudden you get whooped twice in a row and you're thinking, how am I going to beat this guy next time? Right? I mean, there was not a lot of hope in that match.
No, I mean, he didn't. I mean, outside of a push out, a push out. That's the only score he got. I mean, he didn't even.
And it was kind of at the end. It was kind of at the end.
I think we were anticipating when we did this breakdown before Final X a couple months ago, we kind of focused on the crackdown position. We thought it might come down to a left-handed high crotch position, but it didn't. He didn't even touch a leg. So it's got to be
that's what you said. Dake changed the. He changed his strategy, pulled that left leg so far back, which usually he wrestles from a fairly square stance, and then he did such a good job of keeping his left hand at home. I mean, which obviously took that away from Alex Dieringer. So, yeah, I mean, I guess I'll just say great job by Kyle Dake. Great game playing, great execution, great all around. I picked Dieringer. I thought it was going to be close. I don't really consider it to have been very competitive. So I'm just going to say good job to Kyle Dake.
Yeah, I mean, is it safe? Where would you place Dake in the world? Because I think he's kind of firmly entrenched as far as strategy, technique, ability to adapt and adjust. I don't think there's a better American out there than adjusting to the opponent that he's facing or being able to incorporate multiple game plans depending on the opponent. I mean, that was really, really impressive to me that he was able to do that. And, that he basically wrestled a completely different game plan. Like he is one of the best. One, he's got the best push out in the world. Two, he knows how to control the center and dictate pace and tempo. And he just completely reversed the script and wrestled from space, got Dieringer chasing him, and just basically was passing him side to side throughout the entire match. And it just, you could almost see Dieringer just second guessing, like he didn't have an answer. And it was really surprising that I thought he might make a slight adjustment between match 1 and match 2, but he didn't seem to have an answer, or his coaches didn't seem to have.
We kind of talked about that on the break, man. It's hard. At that level, it is so hard to make major adjustments in the middle of matches. And we discussed that, and obviously that's kind of what we saw in match 2 is there wasn't an adjustment being made. He wasn't able to do it.
Yeah, and I think for the most part, I know that what Dake was saying leading up to the match is like, hey, it's really hard to get up for a guy who's only been preparing specifically for you the last year. But
yes,
I would venture to say that was the same approach that Dake took to Dieringer. It's like, look, I've been out 9 months. I haven't competed. So it looked like he'd only been focusing on Dieringer for the last 9 months too.
Yes. I agree completely. I mean, that's more of an excuse for Dieringer than Dake, because Dake only wrestled a couple matches in Spain. Dieringer wrestled quite a few matches all over the place.
Yeah.
So yeah.
What I'm laughing about now is the change in dialogue that I'm hearing from people. Like all of a sudden, they completely. I always get a little bit of amusement out of this when people are so high on one guy. Like predominantly, the vast majority of people, or not the vast, but the majority of people, I think, were picking Dieringer, correct?
Oh, I don't know about vast majority. I'd say 50-50-ish.
Yeah. But there was a lot of people choosing Dieringer, and now after the results on this weekend, they're like, "Oh, Dake is definitely taking Jordan Burrows out next year." I'm like, "Come on."
Really? They were saying that?
Yeah.
Oh my goodness, that's funny.
Like JB better win if he wants to have a shot next year. He better win a medal this year so he can sit to the finals, because I don't think he's beaten Dake. I'm like, wait. Yeah. These are all the same people that were saying this is Dieringer's time, to ascend to the top spot in the world. And now I just find it amusing how quickly people change their opinion and are quick to jump back on the Dake train.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's go. Jonnie Zane. I think after a couple of days, I feel the exact same way I felt Saturday. My feelings don't change. I hope they announce the date very, very, very quickly.
I mean, it has to be quick. You would almost think. I know one of the last national team camps, as far as national team camps being held within the United States, I think this is the last one coming up.
I believe so. Yeah.
So I
believe they said acclimation. They leave like September 1st or something like that.
Yeah. So I think they're out for the next 10 days out in Colorado, and then coming back, training at home for a week, and then going to the acclimation camp. So you would think, given the schedule, that they would wrestle out at the world team camp. This is all conjecture.
Yes.
I'm just, there's such a limited window to do this. Like, when are you going to do it? When's the right time? So I would think it's got to be out in Colorado this week.
Yeah, absolutely.
Then do you give these guys allowances, a weight allowance, like a 2 kilo allowance, or what would you do in this situation? Or what's the fairest thing?
I think it's no weight. I mean, I don't think either one of them. Well, I know Yianni for a fact is not cutting a gigantic amount of weight, so that shouldn't be an issue. Maybe Zain is, but they probably should argue that out at the arbitration. I would venture to guess the most fair way would be no weight cut whatsoever.
Just straight 2-hour weigh-in, scratch weight, which was different because
I think you got to do it.
Yeah, because I thought it was interesting that Russia actually held 3 of their final trials at their national team camp, and I think they got a 3 kilo allowance.
That was
which
crazy, Matt.
I thought was
is a
really
gigantic
crazy.
amount of weight. Yes,
Especially
totally
at 97. Crazy. At 97, where Sadulayev was wrestling off.
Yeah.
Which it's common knowledge that he is not a full size 97 kilo guy. He doesn't cut weight at all. And then I'm forgetting the name of his opponent, but this guy's a monster.
Batsiev. Yeah, Batsiev. He's huge.
Yeah, he's a monster. So
yes.
And that was a match that people thought might be competitive, and Sadulayev just teched him 10-0.
10-0'd him.
Yeah.
Maybe that was a work though, because I thought that I was shocked that they would make Sadulayev wrestle off. So maybe they just said, hey, let's scare the Americans. Let's just it was behind closed doors. Let's just do a drill match and we'll say Sadulayev 10-0 to scare them.
I actually watched the match. I found it.
I thought it was behind closed doors.
It was, but somebody filmed it and put it on YouTube. I actually watched it.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. So how were they going hard?
Yeah. There was a lot of feeling out in the first period. There was no score in the first period, and then Sadulayev came out, took him down, gutted him several times. That was kind of like the end of the story there. Once he got up 6-0, it was kind of done deal.
Yeah.
But Saev didn't really compete much after that.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So back to you. I think you're right. I think here, scratch weight. I mean, you should be pretty much in striking distance. A month out, I mean, you're starting to taper your weight at that point. If you do have to manage your weight a little bit more seriously, you said Yianni doesn't have that trouble.
Yes.
I'm not sure where Zain walks around at. He does look a little bigger than Yianni, but you would think that, a month out, you're starting to taper your weight and starting to get it in striking distance. So having a scratch weight, I think, would be the fairest way to do it.
Yeah, I think that would be the fairest way to do it for sure.
Now, I know there's some other things that we started getting into, and this is away from wrestling, just the qualification process. Are you worried at all that USA Wrestling has kind of opened itself up to this arbitration process again?
No. I think that is such a no. I hate that take. I've heard.
I want to hear what you have to say.
I think it's simple. There's a whole big list of rules. I can't cite them right now. Go back to the podcast that was right after Final X. Matt, we cited them. There was clear violations of protocol followed, and in any other circumstances where there's such clear violations of protocol that change the outcome of a match, I would like to right those wrongs. I don't want to leave them wrong. That made me feel dirty. I mean, Matt, I'll tell you exactly where I was. I was eating my final piece of pizza. I was going to go to the UFC in Chicago, and I remember they threw the brick, and I thought obviously it can only be about the last 10 seconds of the scramble. I said, well, there was nothing there whatsoever, right? So I went to the room, I got dressed, I came back, and they had rewarded the points. And I said, where did those come from? And then, I knew the last 10 seconds, there was no exposure, there was no points. I knew that for a fact. So then when they took it all the way back to that scramble, which I thought it was the wrong refereeing call, but regardless, you can't go all the way back there. That was like 45 seconds ago. Give me a damn break. So yes, in future matches where protocol is not followed, I am okay with righting those wrongs. I do not think it opens up a bag of worms because I don't think that protocol is not followed that often.
No, I think the cases we've had this summer are more outliers. But when you do, I'm totally with you. If you don't get it right, and you have the technological capabilities to get it right, you get it right. And you eliminate human error as much as you can. And that was maybe one of those things where I wish there was a little bit more transparency on USA Wrestling sides. Like, hey, there was an obvious screw up here. Obvious, you violated protocol in several different situations. Make it right, or at least come out and say, don't try and justify it or rationalize it like I saw, Tucci do a couple weeks ago.
What did he say? I missed that.
He basically he rationalized, and kind of said, well, based upon, how things go internationally, they kind of he tried to make an excuse why throwing the block after 45 seconds was permissible. And I'm like, come on,
He did? Oh
just
my
own up
God.
to it. Just own up to it and say, hey, yeah, we messed up here and we're making it right. And I think everybody can
Yeah.
respect that. Not trying to
Wow.
justify it, or, that's always my problem with officials a lot of times, is that, like, and we're going into folk style here, but this is my main disagreement with having a side judge in folk style, is they typically 9 times out of 10 just reinforce a bad decision by the head official. And I would rather see it like, hey, yes, we didn't follow protocol, we messed up, and we're going to make it right. Just own up to it.
That's easy.
What's the big deal?
No big deal. Hey, so let's move on.
Yeah.
Greco, Junior Greco, best tournament since 1984. And Matt, we don't talk about Greco very often. I don't have a huge interest in Greco, but I think, man, I think when they do something good, we got to acknowledge it. Three junior level medals for the first time since 1984. How do you feel about that?
I think it's fantastic. And I think we've talked about this before. I think Matt Lindland has one of the toughest wrestling jobs in the United States, to try and field a competitive program. And I know he's got some heat the last couple of years. He's been the national team coach for what, 4 or 5 years now, for about
sounds
about
right,
a quad, right?
Yeah.
So I know in our society we always want instant gratification. We want results right away, and we've talked about the flip side of.
Hey, wait! Can I get a shameless plug for myself in here?
Yes.
Okay, so don't let me forget what we were talking about. My Mental Monday today, which I actually filmed yesterday, it's on Instagram live. It will be coming out also later, I believe, on YouTube on the RUDIS page. But Matt, this piece was fat. It was I'm reading a book. It's not about sports. It has some sports stuff in there. It's not about wrestling, but it said this was fascinating. So I hope I can explain this clearly enough over radio or over our podcast. They wanted to test the effectiveness of teachers at the Air Force Academy teaching Calculus 1. So what they did was at the end of the classes, they took tests, and then they also did student feedback on what they thought of the teachers, right? And then they ranked the teachers 1 through 100. Okay? And so then what they find is the ones who are the best are not necessarily the best for their long term. So there was not a good correlation between how successful they were in that class and how much they were liked to their long term success. How they were doing Calculus 2 and so on and so forth. They tested all these students in the follow up classes to Calculus 2, anything that was a prerequisite to. And so what it says is, lots of times those type of teachers who are favorites, they kind of give hints, they help, they assist, they want to see the kids have success, which obviously feels like a really positive thing. But they said the teachers who force the kids to struggle a little bit more, often those kids have more success later on. I thought that was very interesting. That's all I got.
No, I mean, it's actually similar to what Carrie and I talked about in our book review a couple podcasts ago.
What book was it?
We were doing Make Your Bed. I don't know if you've ever read it.
Oh, it was about the guy. He had the famous commencement speech, correct?
Yeah. He was the head of the Special Forces when he was in the Navy.
Mm-hmm.
He's a retired admiral, ended up taking over and becoming the president of the University of Texas. His name is William McRaven, Admiral McRaven. And he took you 10 easy steps of Make Your Bed, 10 principles and takeaways he took away from his military career. And that was part of what he was talking about. It's like allowing kids to struggle, allowing soldiers to struggle, allowing athletes to struggle is going to be much better for their long-term growth and development, as opposed to getting easy wins in the short term. So yeah, I think I completely agree with that. And I think that's now we're going off in a completely different direction, but yeah. I think that's
okay.
That's,
back to Matt Lindland. I'm sorry.
Anyways, back to Greco. Yeah, I mean, it's phenomenal. It's I think a lot of people, whenever you see a new leader take over a program, they just think you're going to turn it around, snap your fingers, and you're going to be good to go. Like you can turn a program around in 2 years. It's a little bit more difficult than that. So it's good to finally see some success at the age group level.
Yep.
Obviously, Cholton Schultz is a mainstay there in Greco. I think this is his
He is such an
sixth.
animal, Matt.
He is. This is his sixth age group world team, and I believe his fourth medal in Greco.
Didn't he make like the cadet and the junior world team in the same year or something insane like that?
He did, and
I
he's
think it was.
actually. I think he medaled in U23 last year, didn't he?
Oh, he made the U23 team also. Yeah, I mean, he has made so many teams. He wrestles everywhere. I mean, everywhere. He wrestles everywhere. And yeah, it's so. I mean, it's so crazy to see someone who's so young have that success. And obviously, we've seen it in the freestyle program, but we haven't really seen it in the Greco program. I mean, all the way to where he beat Olympian Robbie Smith at the U.S. Open senior level, Matt. And this guy's in high school.
Yeah, it's phenomenal. Made Final X in addition. I don't know what's more impressive, him medaling at Junior Worlds or him actually making the Final X, beating Robbie Smith. But yeah, I mean it's awesome to see. It's great to see that there's some life on that side of the program. Now, who's this kid from Wisconsin that also medaled?
Yeah. Well, his name's Austin Nutter. We haven't seen much of him, so he was from far western Wisconsin, and he did one of those things where they go. He went and lived at the USOEC in northern Michigan.
Okay.
So I believe he only wrestled 1 year of high school wrestling in Wisconsin. So I
No
don't
kidding.
really, I don't. Yeah, and that was obviously, he's like 20 now. So that was 4 or 5 years ago, if my memory serves me correctly. And that was kind of when we were starting our club. So yeah, I don't have a huge recollection of him growing up or anything like that.
Now, what's your feeling about? We've seen in the past year that RTCs have kind of expanded to be more inclusive of the women's side of things. We really haven't seen that growth or that opportunity be presented to Greco. I know there's a handful. I think the World Class Athlete program for Greco, a bunch of those guys are in state college, or they were.
Yeah,
that's the only.
I think.
Yeah, that's the only one that I can think of. The other RTC that actually works with some Greco guys. I think Finger Lakes does.
I thought no, your boy Matt Storniolo.
Well, Robbie
Chicago
Smith
RTC,
is out.
Robbie Smith,
yeah,
and Joseph Rao.
Yeah.
Also.
Yeah.
So he's got a couple.
So let me ask you this: what benefits do you see from folk style guys training with Greco guys? Do you see any benefit of that, or any, like if you were to bring in Greco guys, and obviously these guys want to train Greco.
Yeah. Well, I think the idea here, Matt, is that it's hard to raise money. I mean, I'm doing it with the Badger RTC. It's hard to raise money. So if you say there's 3 branches, right? Men's freestyle, women's freestyle, and men's Greco. The one that is most like the other, obviously, is men's freestyle, right? That's the premier one in the United States. That's the one that could probably help your college athletes the most. The next one would be women's freestyle, in my opinion, and then the last one being Greco. And so when you got it, I mean, for us at the Badger, it's hard. I mean, listen, Greco's big in Wisconsin. I don't really like Greco, but I brought up the idea of, hey, we have a lot of really good Greco athletes here. What about bringing some of them to the RTC? It's like, okay, great, but where's the money coming from? It's like we need to raise enough money to fund our freestyle athletes to keep up with everybody else. Then, if we get a few women, which we have, that's a bonus. But then it's like, okay, now we got to raise. If we had a huge donor come in tomorrow, I think we would make it happen. But we're just not there yet, and I think it's as simple as a money thing.
And and the reality with people, when you're asking them for money, if they're going to give money, they want to see results, right? And this is a question I posed. I was out in Iowa a couple of weeks ago, filming some stuff on Caleb, and
Yes.
I was asking Mark Perry. I said, "Hey, how's it been? Adding all these new women to the Hawkeye Wrestling Club?" And he's like, "It's simple, Matt." He's like, "People love winners." And he goes, "We just happened to, every woman we brought in the past year, they won."
Yes.
And he's like, so, we got some really good traction right away. That these women, we brought them in, and they've succeeded at a really high level. He said, "I think in some ways, some of our women are actually more popular than some of the Hawkeye athletes at this point." That's
really?
how much they've. Yeah, that's what he said. That's how much
wow.
the community in the state of Iowa has really embraced these women. So I think I was really excited to hear that, because of all places, you would think that Iowa was kind of like, you wouldn't think that would be the place that would really embrace the female side of things. And from a
Yeah,
cultural
you would not.
perspective, you wouldn't know how their fans would really be receptive to that. But he's like, no, I mean, the people out in Iowa love all the women at the Hawkeye Wrestling Club. So yeah, I think
Wow.
if you can bring these Greco guys in and they win and they're successful, people are going to get excited about it.
Yeah, I mean, I guess in Wisconsin, I said, is a big Greco hotbed, and so we brought up that possibility, and it's just it's funding right now, and so we'll keep working on the funding, and maybe someday our funding will be fantastic, and we can bring in some of them. But I know I got to assume that's the challenge for other college programs as well.
Because you guys have brought in a couple of women as well, correct?
Yeah, we have three. Well, we have two. One of them hurt her leg, and she decided to go somewhere else. But we have two, Ronnie Heaton and Jaden Laurent. Hey Matt, the other thing I was just gonna mention about that Greco training thing, man, I felt like I wanted to give Greco a big thumbs up, and now I feel like I'm kind of poo pooing a little bit. But the other thing is, obviously, the RTCs, they best case scenario, they keep the guys that went to college there, right? Those guys already have a bond with the team. They already have a bond with the community. They already work well with the coaches. So obviously for RTCs, I think at most times they would like to keep guys who already went to that college. I think that's ideal. And so, when you're looking at a college coach, and there's a few, Michigan State would be one who they had a medalist in Peyton Omanya. I'm assuming Arizona State's going to let Cholton Schultz wrestle Greco. But most college coaches, if their athletes are saying, "Hey, I want to do Greco and not freestyle in the spring," the coach is saying, "Hey, well, I don't know about that. Maybe you should do freestyle." I mean, that's happening. So, a lot of those kids who may have that Greco background are kind of getting stepped out of that at the college level. If that makes sense.
Yeah, completely.
And yeah, and do you really? I mean, you don't really blame them that much, right?
No, because the reality. I mean, it's layered here, right? The reality. I mean, of your top folk style guys, they're probably on scholarship money, right?
Yes.
And
Yep.
if I'm a college coach, if you're really getting down to brass tacks, you're like, hey, I'm paying you to be good in folk style. Now, an extension of that could be freestyle. That's going to help your folk style, but I don't see, the correlation necessarily between folk style success and Greco success. And yeah, so I think it's well within the realm of discussion for college coaches to say, well, I am paying for your school or a significant amount of your school, so I'm going to have a say in what you do. Now, if you really want to do this, then you can pay for what you want to pay, but I'm paying for your school, to get your results in folk style. So I think it's well within their ask to say, no, we want you focusing on freestyle. Yeah.
Cool. Yeah, I mean, I agree totally. Okay, so great job, Greco. 3 medals. I think it's fantastic. The other one we didn't talk about, Matt, was women. We did not get any women's world champions. We have had a lot of success at the women's level. We had 2 finalists, Macy Kilty. I'm blanking on who number 2 is, Matt. I gotta open up my browser window.
Yeah, I gotta open that up. And another, hey, let's keep plugging Wisconsin here. Another product of Wisconsin.
Oh. Macy
with Macy, right?
We tried getting Macy to the Badger RTC. She decided to go to North Carolina. Unfortunately, it's beautiful down there, I heard. So we got Macy is from Wisconsin, is now in North Carolina. We also had from our Wisconsin RTC, we had Jaden Laurent. So Jaden took 5th place, I think, at 67 kg or 68 kg. So,
yeah, which is great. So what is this? Is this Macy's 4th or 5th age group medal?
So she seems like she's there every single year. Every year. I mean, she probably got 1 or 2 years, probably 1 year of juniors left, I would assume. So
and she's another one, just like Cholton Schultz that jumped in and wrestled at the senior level, was, I believe, 3rd.
Yep.
She made the national team this year.
She made the US Open finals. And
Right.
so did Jaden Laurent. Jaden Laurent, for that matter, also made the U.S. Open Finals. Um, wow. Okay, we did not have another girl in the finals, Matt. I was lying. So
Yeah, I
we
kind of
actually
thought
only
Macy was the only one, right?
And Macy was our only medalist, so I think that has to be cool. A fairly disappointing performance for the junior team because they have had a decent amount of success in the past. So Jaden Laurent places fifth, and Olivia Fisk places fifth, and so that's Macy's the only medalist. So that's a fairly disappointing performance for them because I know they
A little
had
disappointed,
success.
especially because on the cadet side of things, we had 3 medalists on the women's cadet side, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And we've had, historically we've had quite a bit of success. Okay, Matt, what else you want to talk about? I don't know if we should make an announcement, but I got a really exciting guest later this week. Maybe we'll hold that in, up to sleep for the time being.
I think we should tease it.
We're rolling with good guests. We're
We're
rolling.
rolling with
I
good
mean,
guests. Let's tease it. We're gonna this podcast is gonna go out, and it'll give 2 days lead time before we do this interview. So I think roll it out there. It's exciting.
okay. Well, yeah, I thought it is too. Daton Fix has agreed to be on the podcast later this week. We're working on exactly which days we're going to fit into a schedule. That's awesome, Matt. I'm a huge fan of Daton Fix. I think the biggest thing I'm a fan of this guy he just wrestles everywhere. He competes. He doesn't really get too hung up on having a perfect record or being perfect or anything. He just goes out there and wrestles in everything. He's everywhere, and he's on the senior bowl team now. Obviously, he had the really, I guess he'll say, heartbreaking loss in the NCAA finals as a freshman. So I think we have a whole bunch to ask him about.
Yeah, for sure. And it would be interesting for me because the two guys that kind of got lumped together throughout high school and they had an epic match was Lee and Fix were talked about a lot, kind of in the same breath a lot of times in a high school, and kind of the approach that Dayton has taken towards freestyle. Once he got into college, like he's been
Yeah,
active, he's been everywhere, and
Matt, he's everywhere.
and then on the opposite side of things, and you can't probably really argue with his approach with Spencer Lee. He's won 2 NCAA titles, but hasn't wrestled much freestyle or any. He hasn't wrestled
None.
none since he got out to Iowa. So it would be interesting to see the approach and why Spencer has done this. And you guys talked about this on the podcast when you had
I
him
mean,
on.
we didn't
Not
really,
a ton.
we didn't really dig into what his own personal philosophy on competition is. That was the first time we had him on. I'm assuming we'll have him on at some point in the future. So, I did kind of a broad overview of his life in wrestling. We didn't really focus on any one specific topic. But yeah, I mean, Matt, I would be curious to hear what Spencer would have to say about that. So maybe if we get him on again, I'll ask him a more pointed question about, I would say his lack of competition in the off seasons, what the strategy is there. I mean, some guys, I never felt this way. Although I was equally shocked, like when I made that comment at RUDIS on Saturday, like I would go back to college if I could because it was the most fun ever. And everyone didn't agree with me. I thought that was how everybody felt, Matt. I thought everyone like college was the most fantastic experience ever. And so, for some people, they don't want to wrestle in the summers. They want to wrestle in the season. They want to take a break. They don't love competition year round, and that's fine, right? That's just the way they want to do things.
Yeah, yeah, and to your point and what we've said,
I
mean,
can't remember, Matt. You were on my side, right? You said college was the best time ever, right?
yeah, it's fantastic. I think what I said is like I used to tell guys, why get a job when you can get another degree?
Seriously, right?
Yeah, but yeah, it'll be
Yeah.
interesting to see. I'm going to be interested to hear you get in the head of Daton Fix and how he came about developing this mentality of anywhere, anytime, any place. I'll just put it on the line, which I think is great. And I think, obviously that's probably has to do with how he's raised and, how, the people around him balance the competitive mentality and, how to do it in such a way that there's a freedom there to just go out and get better, go out and compete.
Yeah, I mean that's that's pretty much what he's done for the last. I mean, it's cool because we've got to watch Dayton grow up. He's competed in everything. We've seen him all the way along the line. So, yeah, I mean, I'm have to make a list, Matt. So I don't go overtime because there's so many different things that and I'm not an Oklahoma guy, but there's so many different things that we could ask Dayton about, and get his take on. I mean, obviously, the obvious huge one is the Soriano match at Who's Number One. I was there for that, Nat. I was helping with it, and I remember a thing like Martin was like, "We can't let these high school kids wrestle for 30 minutes."
That 30-minute match. So you were there?
It was like I think it ended up being like 34 minutes or something. Yeah, I was there, and everyone was panicking because they're like, they made the rules. You get overtime wrestles till a takedown, but they didn't assume it was going to take half an hour.
And actually, it was a pretty high level match for 30 minutes of wrestling without any score. Yes. It was great. Level. Yeah.
It was great. Yeah, it was great. I mean, those two, that shows you, Matt. I mean, Spencer Lee's girlfriend kind of said something about this on that podcast, is the Soriano Fix match. Matt, those guys wrestled for 34 minutes to get a takedown. Like, they're not going to get a lot of takedowns in 7-minute matches. That's just not going to happen.
No,
those two are like, it's like the immovable force versus the unstoppable object. I blew that. I messed that way up.
I know what you mean, but it was similar. It was reminiscent to me of. This is going way back to the Dennis Hall Paulson Olympic trials match. That as far as quality of wrestling with no scoring, like if you could ever get excited about a high level match with minimal scoring, that was one of the matches. And then seeing two high school kids wrestle on such a high skill and technical level was really, really fun to watch.
Yeah. And then obviously, this is what I'm talking about. We got to watch Dayton grow up, man. I never coached him. I didn't really know him. I seen him around. He wrestled Yianni in the Super 32, I think Super 32 and Flow National Finals. He wrestled Spencer Lee in that awesome series at Askren, UWW Cadets. I mean, there's just so many cool moments that we're going to get to ask him about. So I'm really looking forward to it. I think it'll be a lot of fun.
No, it's going to be huge. I can't wait to hear it.
So, yeah. So, I kind of feel like, Matt, he's like the first one, and I think it's due to the amount that he's competed, that one of the first ones where we've literally got to watch him grow up through wrestling.
Yeah,
because
for sure.
Obviously, previous generations, you couldn't watch any of their matches. I mean, Matt, no one watched me grow up wrestling because they didn't exist. And so he, it's this group right now, the Spencer Soriano, Gable, Dayton, like this group that's coming up. This is the first group where we're gonna have like many, many, many years of watching them from the time. So they're, let's say 15, right? That's the first year they can do the UWW Cadets. All the way through, and it's going to be really cool watching this. I think it's just such a unique dynamic because even though, like I said, I'm saying I don't really know Daton Fix. I don't think I've ever had a conversation with Daton Fix, but I kind of feel like I know him because I've watched him wrestle so many times.
Yeah, and I think that's what's great about what's out there for viewers to watch and the content that's available. Is like you can develop a personal attachment. I mean, that's the nature of sports. The more you see somebody compete, there's an emotional connection when you see someone compete for so long. And it's been really fun to see him in a short period of time dominate every age group level. And he's on the cusp of dominating the final age group level, which is the senior level. I mean, I think the way he's positioned himself, I think he's got every right and belief that he's gonna be standing on the podium, in Kazakhstan in a couple weeks.
No Sultan. Okay, Matt, I got nothing else for you. I think we're in a light time period right here. We're doing the Dayton interview later this week, which that'll be a lot of fun. What are we gonna talk about next week? We'll have to figure something out.
Well, hopefully by that time we've got a breakdown of the Jonnie Zane match, right?
Well, we already did the technique breakdown, so it's not like we could do. It's not like we can do another technique breakdown.
And we've seen these guys so many times in the last couple months. It'll be interesting to see if there's any new takeaways if they actually do wrestle this weekend.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, cool, Matt. Have a great day. I'll talk to you later. And that's all we have for you today. Have a good day, people.